Hi everybody, welcome to Love Anything Art. Today I'll show you how I made this necklace and the pattern. I'll start by using some of the scraps that I got from my previous video. And if you are interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description box below. I'll just take the leftovers from that and kind of pull out a couple of pieces. I don't need a whole bunch for this first part. And then with the rest, I'll just set it aside for a moment. And there is a cat hair in there. Yes, I have a cat. I'll just start chopping it all up. Pew! There goes a piece of clay flying. Didn't know you were going to be watching a magic show today, did you? And then I will just smush it all back together. And then just begin rolling it out. And this is just to kind of muddy up the color a little bit and give it more of a consistent color. It is a scrap clay project, so I like to try to use all of my scraps. And this is it after I've rolled it out a few times and got it all nice and mixed up. And it doesn't have to be fully mixed. I have a little bit in there that's not quite fully incorporated, but it's pretty thin. I'm going to use some of these alcohol inks. I really like these. They're like metallics. If you're interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description box below. I'll just go ahead and open it up. Take a look at the colors. Pretty sure I'm going to be using the gold color. I think it would look best with the colors in my project. And you do want to make sure that you shake it really well. You'll see that the color has separated from the liquid, and it does that very fast, so I try to shake it often as I'm using it also. And you can see I've blended it and shaken it for a little while, and it's pretty much mixed up there. And I do recommend gloves if you don't mind getting your fingers stained. Then go ahead and just leave out the gloves and have fun. But let's go ahead and begin putting on some of this gold color on just one side of the clay. Just use a paintbrush and just start smearing around. It's quite fun and relaxing. Just keep going until you have it pretty much covered. And once it is dry, you just go ahead and set that aside. And then these are the rest of the scraps that I set aside earlier. Just kind of break all the pieces away. Get them all separated. And this time I will go ahead and chop it up pretty good and fine. And then make sure you break up any large pieces that might be stuck together. And you can also chop up any pieces that might still be a little bit too big. I'm going to place it on this extra tile I have. And hopefully that will contain all of my messiness that will be happening very shortly. I kind of like playing around and making a big mess sometimes. And just make sure it's all broken up pretty good. Don't want any huge clumps in there. And I'm going to use some paint. I'm choosing this red color. And just put a generous helping all over your clay. And then just use a tool and start mixing it all up, trying to coat each of those pieces. A couple of mine were still stuck together, so I'm kind of separating it out a little bit too as I go. And if you find that your pieces are too large, just go ahead and chop them up a little bit more. And then just be sure to coat with some paint afterwards. I'm going to place all of my little chopped up covered pieces on this piece of wax paper. I'll spread it out. This is just so it will dry a bit faster. I'm totally impatient and don't like waiting too long. And now it's time to clean up. Okie dokie. Now that my clay is dry, I could just touch it there. It's pretty dry. Might be a few little pieces in there that are a little bit wet, but it is okay. I'll chop off the ends of my rolled out clay just to make it nice and flat and even on both sides. Then just start placing in my chopped up pieces right there in the crack or the fold or the crevice, whatever you want to call it. Just kind of pack it in there a little bit. And then you'll fold it over on itself and then just press it again into place. And again, you'll put some on the other side where it will fold over. You can pack as much or as little as you want, and you can experiment. Maybe make one side kind of thick and the other side not so much. Then just fold it over on itself again. Make sure you got all the air out there. And then you can press it all together. Fold it over again. And just continue piling your chopped up clay inside of your rolled up clay. Once you reach the end, you can just fold over one last time. You can set all your extras aside and then just start pressing it together with your fingers and a roller, getting everything smooshed kind of together. I always wonder what it looks like inside at that point. Could cut it open and see, but let's continue on with the process. Just keep rolling and rolling and rolling, making sure you do all sides. And it came out with a nice long shape. I will cut that in half and then stack it on itself and do the same thing again. Pressing the pieces together. You can do this as many times as you would like. And once I have finished that, I'm going to let it set here for a little while, just a few hours or so. You can also put it in the freezer if you don't want to wait, and just let it firm up. And then I will begin slicing off. And to try to make sure I get pieces that are the same thickness, I will kind of make a little hash mark at the top so I can see where to cut beforehand. After I have chopped them all or sliced them all up, I will place them side by side and begin joining them together. And this is a rough put together of it, but now I just want to make sure I burnish it, get out all of the cracks and divots and imperfections, and make it as smooth as possible. You can place it on a piece of paper and then place another piece of paper over it, and then just begin using your fingers and giving it a nice gentle rub to try to get all of those imperfections out. Also, you can use your roller to do this too, and I am applying a fairly light amount of pressure. It'll take you a little while, but once you get done, it's worth it. You'll have a nice smooth surface to work with. I have cut out templates. I have one of each, but on the smaller one I'm going to make 2, and the large one I'm going to make 1. And I got the template basically from the spoon. I took the outline from the back side here and made the cutout. And I made it slightly smaller than the spoon on the small one here. And then on the larger one, it's pretty much the same size as the back of the spoon. I will place those egg shapes on my clay and then just cut out, just using an X-Acto knife to do that. Doesn't have to be perfect on the edges. We're going to fix everything up in a minute. Now it's time for the spoon. Just take your cutout and place it on the back of the spoon. Kind of try to center it on there as best as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's what I love about a lot of these projects that I do. I don't like measurements, and I just want to have fun. You just want to make sure you don't have any air bubbles underneath there as you're placing it on. I'm just going to use the other spoon I have here and just kind of smoosh down or flatten the edges. You can use anything you want. You can use any kind of tool. I just didn't want to use my fingers because I didn't really want to muddy up the clay with my fingers because they get kind of dirty and hot and sweaty, and that's really not good for the clay. Then I'll just go around the entire edge of it, just flattening and smoothing it out. When you're done, you can also place 2 spoons together, and this will hopefully work out any air that might be caught in there and also give you a nice flatness on the top of your dome shape. You can also just use the back of the spoon there and just kind of smooth it out a little bit. Now to fix up those edges, just simply take a tissue blade and kind of press in and up. And you can also kind of do a little sawing motion, and this will help flatten and even out the sides. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. In the next steps here, it will cover up kind of any imperfections also. I have done all 3 of my spoons. They look pretty smooth. The edges are nice. And I will go ahead and place them in the oven just like this and bake them. After being baked, they pop off the spoon pretty easy. I just take the X-Acto knife and place it underneath it, and then pop, and it comes right off. It's nice and smooth in there. Nice dip. I've rolled out a piece of light gray clay I thought it would look best with the colors. You can use any color that you want. Just make sure there's enough room on there for all 3 of your pieces. And this is the bottoms and backings of the little dome shapes. Just go ahead and cut each of those out. And then peel away all of your extra clay. Of course, you get to save that and use it again because clay is awesome. And now we're going to get the backs of the clay to stick to the baked clay. I'm just taking my finger and running it along the sides here, pressing down, and it's going to smooth out that clay and connect it to the dome. Just keep going around until you have it looking however you want it to look, as perfect or imperfect as you want it. I'm going to use a stick pin and make a hole at one end of the dome shape. And then directly across, I will make another hole on the other side. And I'll do this with all 3 of my pieces. And then placing in a eye hook on both ends. And I'll place it on a piece of paper and bake it once more. Voila! And I did glue in my eye hooks. And I sanded it down, just a nice smoothing sanding of the tops and bottoms. And then applied a generous amount of some resin. And this is the finished product. It looks so beautiful and shiny. And I will assemble my necklace. I'll show you how I did it. Just going to use a piece of metal wire, place on a crimp bead, and like a bonehead, I forgot to put my bead cap cover on first, but I'll just string it through the other end, pull it down to the other side, and problem averted. And then go ahead and close that up. And I've made a couple of these little bead contraptions. 2 little beads on the side, 1 big bead in the middle, and I placed on a jump ring. I will connect that to one side of my dome. This will go on the middle dome, and then I will place the other one on the other side of the middle dome. And I've made another one, but this one just has the 1 bead. Place it on a jump ring. Place that on the left side of the left dome and set that there. And then again on the right side of the right dome. And then just attach a jump ring, and you can attach your right and left domes to each side. And another jump ring to connect your wire to your necklace. And you'll do that on both sides. You can cut off any excess string or wire. I did hold it up to my neck and measured it to make sure it set where I wanted it to. And I'll just cut off the correct amount from both sides to make it even. I'll place on a bead cap cover first this time. And then place on the crimp bead. Crimp that into place. Close up the clam shell. Do the same to the other side. And then just place on your findings or your toggle in your clasp or however you're wanting your necklace to close up and connect. And I have a little bit of extra jump rings on there so I can adjust the size. And I did make this little bead just out of some excess clay, placed in a eye hook and resined. And it's going to set at the very end of my chain link. I thought it would be a nice little touch. It's always about those little extras when it comes to making stuff. And then place on my little claw clasp on the other side. And I am done. I really like the way it came out. I like the pattern. I like the simplicity of it. It didn't take too long to make this. And I kind of like the idea that those dome shapes are hollow and very light. And then of course my little ball bead there at the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and join me on my journey to claydom. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!